The coronavirus pandemic has worsened the global security food situation. And the question is, what are we doing as a country in a bid not to sink deeper into the abyss of food insecurity? Remember in 2017, President Uhuru Kenyatta launched his 4 ambitious projects. Number 1 was on food security and nutrition, to ensure that Kenyans have access to food all the time. And the question is, what are we doing as a country to ensure that this reality or this dream becomes a reality? Well, in the mix of all these is the National Irrigation Authority. It is expected to ensure that millions of acres of land are brought into irrigation or have been put under irrigation to ensure that there is food production or increased food production. And tonight we want to put some spotlight on this, and joining us tonight is the engineer or chief engineer at the National Irrigation Authority, Engineer Charles Muasya. Thank you so very much indeed for joining us, engineer.
Thank you, Brian, for this invite.
Help us understand, I mean, when you talk about food security in this country, one might get baffled by, like, I mean, irrigation and food security, where do you draw the line?
Well, let me say that 80% of Kenya landmass is ASO. And being ASO, we need to irrigate in order to actualize the agenda of food security.
And in ASO, you're talking about arid and semi-arid?
Arid and semi-arid areas.
Yeah.
And these areas, the amount of rainfall received cannot sustain growing of crops to maturity. Mm-hmm. So we need to irrigate. So let me say that at the National Irrigation Authority, we have an ambitious program and project towards the agenda of food security. And currently, we have 9 key programs towards actualizing this. And actually, the target is by the year 2030, we should have put 1 million acres under irrigation.
That is in about 10 years from now?
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, the fact of the matter is that, I mean, it is true 80% of the Kenyan landmass would be considered to be arid or semi-arid. But the argument has always been, I mean, for a country with more than 520,000 square kilometers of land, the rest 20%, if well attended, if well dealt with, has the capacity to feed 50 million or even 60 million Kenyans. Why do we still have Kenyans, going to bed without food?
What I want to say is that, as I've just stated, is that currently, because the way to go to realize food security is irrigation. Mm-hmm. And currently, we only have about 500,000 acres under irrigation, or thereabout. And most of it actually has not been dedicated to crops food security. Mm-hmm. Because when you talk of food security in Kenya, you're majorly talking of maize, potatoes, or rice, basically. That's what I want to say. Mm-hmm. So out of these 500,000 acres, which is under irrigation, you'll find much of it is under agricultural production.
Yeah.
So that is a key issue. And now what we are trying to do is to bridge this gap, is now to accelerate and bring more area now under irrigation, because actually that is the way to go. And what I'm saying is that I would also want to outline now the programs which we have put in place, and which we think if we walk the talk and implement these programs, come the year 2030, this country will be food secure. Mm-hmm. Yes.
I mean, since the country attained independence, political, economic, as well as social independence, in 1963, the country has managed to put around 450,000 acres of land under irrigation. The plan now is to double this in a period of 10 years. Is this achievable? If yes, what are we going to do, or what are we doing to accelerate this project?
Let me say that we have 9 key programs which we would want to sustain along the way. And I want to start by mentioning that the first program which we have is the Bura irrigation project.
That is in Tana River.
That is in Tana River. And we have massive flow along the Tana River. And in this program, the government is investing 7.2 billion Kenya shillings to bring 35,000 acres under irrigation. And we target or envisage by the end of 2021, this will be actualized. Currently, we are at about 40% in terms of implementation. So we think by the end of next year, we should be able to actualize this. The
35,000 acres.
Yes, that's 5,000 acres.
Under irrigation.
Under irrigation in Bura.
If you were to try and put this into perspective, how big is this, acreage, or how small is it? Is it like the entire size of Nairobi city, or how would you describe this?
Well, I think as I can put it is that, an acre is about 4,000 acres. That's about land space of about 40 meters times 100. That's 4,000 acres. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So we are talking so many times, 35,000. That piece of land mass is what we want to put under irrigation in Bura. Now, when we come to Mwea, and as you know, currently, Mwea, we rely on Mwea in production of rice. And what we want to do is that we have a project which we are investing 11.7 billion Kenya shillings to bring a total of 35,000 acres under rice. Let me mention that currently we are just producing about 100,000 metric tons of rice against a national demand of about 500,000 metric tons. So we are importing about 400,000 metric tons. So once we implement Mwea, we envisage that we are going to close this gap up to around 300,000 metric tons. So we only have a deficit of about 200,000 metric tons. Then
this is also bearing in mind that, the demand for rice and rice consumption is rising faster, actually, and almost. Indeed. There are projections that, rice is likely to replace maize as Kenya's staple food by the time we get to the year 2030.
That is very true. And I'm going to talk about another program in Nyanza, which we are also putting in place to make sure that what we are doing in Mwea is really supplemented. Let me speak about Galana briefly, because as you are aware, Galana was an ambitious project which we are targeting to put about 10,000 acres under irrigation.
As it was?
It is. It is. Even let me confirm.
So it was and it is?
It is. Let me confirm that. And in Galana alone, we targeted about 10,000 acres, which I want to mention is that we envisaged that we will produce 600,000 bags per year from Galana.
Of maize?
Of maize. I want to inform you that the national deficit of maize is about 8 million bags. So Galana, what we are doing in Galana, can significantly contribute towards bridging this gap and other programs which I'm going to elaborate across the country. So what I want to say is that there were a bit of challenges in terms of actualizing and completing Galana, but this has been surmounted, and we envisage by the end of the next year, that is 2021 June, we should be completely have delivered Galana. Because this financial year,
the first 10,000 model.
The first 10,000 model farm. Because this financial year, we have an allocation of 600 million Kenya shillings to complete the remaining bit. There's a project we're just doing here in Rabura. We'll put an additional 1,500 acres under irrigation.
1,500?
1,500 acres under irrigation. Then we have the national expanded program. This program I want to mention is that we envisage we are targeted to put a total of 500,000 acres under irrigation by the year 2030. We started this program in the year 2011, and up to now, we have put a total of 130,000 acres under irrigation, spending upwards of 25 billion Kenya shillings, and benefiting about 200,000 farmers, households across the country. And this program cuts across all the 47 counties in the country. Then we have another program which is very popular now with our farmers, the household. You might have heard about it. And actually what we are doing now,
the household
program. And the household program is whereby we are constructing water pans of capacities between 1,000 to 3,000 at the household level. And actually what we are doing is to capture precipitation at what I would call in situ, or where it is falling, and a short distance of runoff. And these farmers, especially in the dry areas, which are completely arsons now, where there was no production whatsoever before, farmers are now producing, and this has been witnessed. So this is another program which we are targeting a total of 25,000 acres. We have already achieved about 17,000 acres this far, and we target by the end of by June 2021, we will have actualized this program.
And I know, especially the expanded housing, project. I mean, it has become very popular, especially in the northern part of Kenya, whereby it is very successful in the county of Turkana. So, I mean, you have talked about, multiple projects that are under construction.
Yes.
Let's talk about Galanakulalu. Quite an ambitious project, by all means, in terms of cost and acreage. It's not a new project, as most people think. I mean, this is a project that was conceptualized more than 30 years ago. Why did it draw so much controversy or bad publicity?
As I mentioned earlier, Brian, is that this project, which was conceived in the year 2013, and the actual implementation started in the year 2014. And the construction period was actually supposed to be 18 calendar months, and a period of about 12 months where the contractor was supposed to test the systems which have been put in place. And by March 2017, the contractor was supposed to have handed over this project.
And the contractor you're talking about, Green Areva.
Green Areva. And you see, given that Kenya has a lot of hope in this project, because as you have stated, it's a strategic and a project which can really resolve food security in this country. I think when we had challenges with the contractor in terms of completing this project in time, then there was a lot of anxiety amongst Kenyans. And I think that one I want to appreciate. And, for us contractually to disengage from this contractor, it took a bit of time and a bit of attention. And now it became a project under focus. So, but I want to confirm that now we are beyond that. NIA, we have already taken over the project. Already 5,100 acres is already under production, under means. And the remaining bit I want to mention is that I've just about 15% of it. And I mentioned that by next year.
So 85% of 5,000 acres, is complete.
Of 10,000 acres.
Of 10,000 acres.
Infrastructure is complete. And actually, within the 10,000, 5,100 acres is totally now under production in Galana.
Who is the new contractor?
Well, I want to mention is that we did an open tender, open national tender, and the bids are going to be opened next week. So
we do not have a contractor.
We don't have a contractor yet.
And have you managed to resolve your differences with Green Areva?
Well, what we did with the Green Areva is that we terminated that contract, and we did what we call determinations, and the contractor did hand it over to us. And all the issues which probably all the parties, because there was one party who NIA, we had the employer, and the contractor, we managed to resolve all the issues surrounding the contract in that process of determination. And I think because it's still contractual, it was a contractual issue, what I want to say is that there is no party which is making a claim to either as of now. And that is why you see now we have been free and we have gone out there and we have done an advert and we are recruiting or getting another contractor. I want to mention that we had a site meeting and so many contractors, over 30 of them attended. And there's a lot of interest.
So it's just a question of time before a new contractor is brought on board.
Site.
Help me understand, or help us understand this. I mean, before you, or by the time you are terminating, your contract with Green Areva, I mean, they were well behind schedule in terms of, finalizing and handing over this project to the national government.
Sure.
Now, with all the push and pulls, that came about, and now with plans to pick a new contractor, of course, there will be a lot of buyout in terms of time. So, when are we looking at completing this project?
What I want to confirm is that we expect by December this year, we already have gotten a new contractor or 2 new contractors, because we have 2 lots, which we have.
So we're talking about 70 days from now?
Independently, yeah, 7 days from now. And according to the timelines, we just have a construction period of about 6 months.
6 months?
6 months. So what we have in place and the plan we have, by July next year, we should commission this project.
The 10,000 model farm.
Model farm. And
this will give us how much food?
As I've stated, is that the 10,000 acres. In Galana, we have been able to demonstrate that we can do 30 bags per acre. And these are 30
bags per acre.
Kilograms. So we are talking of a production cycle of 2 seasons in a year, which you can actually achieve in Galana. So that's why I mentioned that in Galana alone, we can get about 600,000 bags, 90 kilograms.
In one harvest?
Yeah, in a year.
Well, in a year.
And this will go a long way in terms of resolving the issue of food security, more so in the coast region. And one thing I want to mention is that this farm in coast region, they no longer, the National Citizens Produce Board no longer get meals outside Galana now, in terms of relief food. And we have been able, this farm has been able to supply now relief food in the coast region.
What will happen to the other, if the plan is, first of all, to have 10,000 acres, under irrigation, and the plan, the grand plan was to have about 1 million acres, under irrigation. So what becomes of the 990,000 acres?
Let me correct you, Brian. Galana, we were not to do 1 million acres under irrigation under Galana alone. What I want to clarify is that Galana alone, and out of the studies which were done, the maximum we can achieve in Galana is about 220,000 acres only.
220,000
acres only. And to actualize actually an additional, we can only do with the base flow or the river flow, the Galana River, we can only achieve about 20,000 acres only. So beyond 20,000 acres, we must store. So we must have a storage. And these, plans and visibility studies have been done. And what we are what is this? That there's a proposal actually to supplement and have a storage. And if we have a storage upstream of Galana, about what I want to say 150 kilometers upstream of Galana, we can be able to do a dam or a barrage, harvest water, and gravitate to the farm and achieve an additional 170,000 acres. The rest of the area now to be towards the journey achieving 1 million acres by 2030 in the country will come from other parts of the country. And there's a program which I did not mention, and it's important for me to mention in Turkana. Turkana, we have a massive potential.
Pekera,
there's Lukubai, Ilelea, there's a Naipa, and the Lokitipi. So
actually, before we even move to Turkana, because we want to, get off the issue of Galanakulalu. So, the whole plan was to have and we have, senior government officials, on record, talking about 1 million acres. We can say there was a retweaking of the plan, or maybe there was change of heart along the way. But that can be debated another day. The whole point is Galanakulalu food project is still viable. It is work in progress. It shall be delivered in the fullness of time. Is that what you're trying to say?
Very true. Very viable. And let me mention to you that the national average in terms of maize production is 17 bags per acre. In Galana, we are doing up to 30 bags per acre.
That's double, more than double, actually.
So it's a project which is viable. And indeed, we can achieve and actualize food security.
Let's talk about another critical project, and I want you to combine these with what is happening in the northern part of Kenya, which actually a lot of people do not know. the reason why these days we don't have a lot of hunger issues, in the northern part of Kenya is because of the project being undertaken by the national government, the county government, as well as the National Irrigation Authority. Let's talk about, the Mwea project, the construction of Thiba Dam, which is very critical in expanding, the Mwea irrigation scheme. How far are we with this project? And I want you to tie it up with what's happening in the northern part of Kenya.
Mwea had two components. It's important to clarify this. And there was an irrigation area, and there was a dam, the Mwea Thiba Dam.
Yeah.
And holistically, I want to mention that in terms of progress, we're at about 45% in terms of achievement. Against a target at, about 60%, 65% as this period in time. But what we want to say is that there was a bit of delay initially, and we have surmounted the challenges which were there.
Yeah.
And we envisage come July next year, we should start storing water in the dam. And by July next year, according to the timelines. And by September, actually, the dam should well be done. What will be remaining, actually, which can be also be actualized very fast, is what we call just auxiliary works. But the main issue of the dam will be done by July next year.
And so by September, you go to the area around the dam.
Yes.
You have about 11.2 million
stored water
in that area. Let's talk about the irrigation project.
The irrigation project also, as you could be aware, is that we had some also challenges with the contractor.
Yeah.
With Sovias at home. And they terminated the contract. And this was a contractual engagement, and termination is part of resolving issues in a contract. They terminated, and we went back, and as we talk now, we are evaluating bids, and we are also targeting by the end of this year, we should have 2 contractors on site now to fast track and implement that project. So by the time we are also clearing with the dam, we should also now be clearing with the irrigation area. And in totality, we should have about 35,000 acres ready for production of rice.
Of rice? Yes. In September next year?
September next year.
Next year. Finally, as I let you go,
yes,
let's talk about the northern part of Kenya.
Yes.
What kind of work is happening there?
In northern part of Kenya, we have been implementing what I call water pans. And what we are doing is that we are harvesting runoff. Because as you know, in northern Kenya, it rains, and much of this water has just been going to waste. So what we have done is that we have gone there, and you have an ambitious program of constructing of water pans. And through this program, we have been able to change lives in northern Kenya. We have testimonies now of farmers, either two, who are purely now just relying on, livestock.
Yeah.
Because basically that's a dominant livelihood in northern Kenya.
Yeah.
And now we are converting into production of horticultural crops. More so, in as much as we also doing converting them into production of horticultural crops, we also sustaining and supporting their mainstay, which is livestock. Because these water pans which we are doing, we also allocate some storage or some bit of water now for domestic and also livestock. So we are just having all these fronts to support people in northern Kenya.
And you have the opinion that once these projects are actualized, they'll definitely change the game in terms of food security in northern Kenya.
Absolutely.
And I must commend that, I have seen those projects.
Sure.
And we have actually brought some of the stories right here on the KBC.
Sure, yeah.
And let me say that they look impressive.
Thank you so much.
But the fact of the matter is,
so much, yeah,
a lot of work needs to be done.
Thank you so much.
Engineer,
yes,
thank you so very much indeed for finding time to be with us.
Yes.
And to enumerate some of the projects.
Thank you so much.
And, construction by NIA to ensure the country becomes food security.
Thank you so much.
Food secure.
Okay.
We'll continue engaging more.
Okay, thank you.
You're watching Business Insight. This is where we discuss real issues, real time. We are back shortly.